It's becoming more recognizable to even the most indoctrinated that there's something not quite right about the collective consensus in humanity's mind structure. This reflects that the vibration and energy of the third-dimensional environment that we inhabit is slowly shifting, day by day, into a field which will inevitably be comprised of an awakened populace. This of course is our collective destiny, leaving no excuse for the awakened to amplify the self-harming state of fear. After all, we are the co-creators. The Matrix is, however, still fully deceiving the majority of people. There might be explosive insights that give many a temporary view of an unveiled mindscape, but patterned wiring quickly sucks them back into their habitual behaviors. Yet once there is a conscious commitment to explore the truths of our existence, including the systemic, societal, and esoteric layers, the observer begins a process of unplugging from certain aspects of the program and emancipating themselves from their psychological, emotional, and spiritual enslavement. If you're one of the many who are contributing to the tipping point for a truly free humanity, a reality where the conscious society is in full swing, then you'll most likely recognize these 12 methods to unplug from the matrix. If not, feel free to use them as a guide for your own healing and growth, as well as increase your participation in this momentous era of humanity's history. 1. Connect with what the matrix is. We've all heard the analogy of the matrix, however it can also be described as a literal representation of how reality works. The manifested, material world, is a deceptive construct which is born from the universal consciousness that permeates all existence. It also has mathematical code, much like computer software, built into its very fabric. For an analytical investigation, research quantum physics, as well as how sacred geometry beautifully represents the method in which our universe is brought to life. There is also a spiritual war at work, one which will inevitably dissolve the current program that dominates the collective consciousness of humanity. We are all a part of it too. This subtle, but omnipresent conflict, exists within each and every one of us. In addition, the matrix also superficially refers to the subliminal and explicit conditioning employed by the powers that no longer should be. To exit this program, we need to show good judgment, or discernment, when analyzing the orchestrated information that bombards humanity's mindscape. Furthermore, a necessary feature of exposing the matrix is not just accepting that there are deeply embedded power structures that control much of the world's policy, wealth, and resources, but that we also need to personally contribute to the tipping point so that the majority of people are awakened to call out and disassemble this elevating global dictatorship. 2. Question every official narrative. Every single mainstream narrative, bar none, is either inaccurate or incomplete. We've all been intentionally and unintentionally brainwashed since we were born. What differentiates us is how much we've been able to emancipate ourselves from the lies, deception, and unhealthy aspects of it. We should always look back to how ignorant we used to be and question in what ways we might be ignorant now, for we must recognize that even if the views that we have are well researched and well informed, they have the potential to evolve as new information arises. Mostly everyone has an opinion on the serious issues of our time, as well as opinions on other people's opinions, yet very few people appear to be spending the countless hours required to piece together an authentic narrative of what's really going on. The fact remains that when you decide to exit the mainstream propaganda narrative, the challenge is that the alternative views are also littered with their own propaganda and fallacies too. Plus, any view that is non-mainstream is purposely labeled as conspiracy, making it difficult to raise and talk about it with family and friends. Don't let this deter you from being a genuine truth seeker and venturing through the minefields of information. With a balanced and robust approach, you'll be ahead of the game until the day particular conspiratory facts become the norm, which is what they have always done as the collective consciousness of humanity evolves. 3. Explore the rabbit hole and its multiple tunnels of truth. When we begin the venture down the rabbit hole, we initiate the process of deeply deconditioning and redesigning ourselves. Beware though, there's deception absolutely everywhere. That's why we must question not just that which we don't know, but everything that we think we do too, even if it turns out to be aligned with truth. This relates to what's happening in both the inner and the outer worlds, as well as how they interrelate. Philosophy or spirituality is the meta-paradigm of this adventure, although many people who awaken to the systemic corruption and social engineering haven't yet opened to the esoteric aspects of life. This is in many cases due to a distaste for an outright misconception of religion, so it clouds their perceptions of information relating to spirituality, and closes them off to rationalizing the world through this primal prism of understanding. That's perfectly okay too, as we're all at our own place on our own path, which of course all lead to the same peak on the misty mountain of consciousness. However, to truly open the mind and heart to the matrix, a genuine connection with the esoteric aspects of life are essential. 4. Spend as much time in nature as possible. The artificial mind-numbing constructs of our so-called civilized world cannot be completely avoided if we want to interact with society and spend time with our family and friends. Yet, prioritizing the dance we can have with nature is a must-have, especially to cleanse the negative energy that we absorb from our exposure to the deceptions and dysfunctions of our world. A simple method is to create our own garden, as each day it connects us to the food that we eat and ensures that we touch, smell, taste, hear, and see the fruits of nature's beauty. Walking, riding, hiking, and running within the various natural gifts that we're given in this world are also easy paths into its magic. Excitingly, the choices we have are virtually unlimited too. Whatever decisions we do make, exploring nature invokes a natural meditative state and stimulates our biochemical health potions. It is cleansing, therapeutic, developmental and empowering. It also has the potential to enlighten the various layers of our being if we dare to tap into it on those levels as well. 5. Make the constructs of the matrix a common topic of conversation. There are individuals all throughout humanity educating themselves on the deeper philosophical, systemic, societal, spiritual, geopolitical, political, and scientific realities. Many get some of it, few get most of it. In any case, the tipping point for a widespread conscious society builds, so don't think for a moment that all the discussions that we're having and the information being shared is to no avail. One day, hopefully within our lifetimes, we'll truly understand and enact the power we have as a collective and design a reality that is not just what we deserve, but what our future generations deserve too. It is critical to continue to share this information throughout our networks, yet we must ensure that we don't belittle those who are sleepwalking through this mess. It's not only hypocritical, as we all had to wake up at one stage, it's also unhelpful, because as soon as someone feels attacked, it's only natural to put up the walls of defense. Accordingly, no insight occurs and therefore no progress is made. That's why if we can gently help others to understand what's truly happening in our material corrupted world, then we have a genuine shot at collectively averting the serious problems that we currently face, and transforming our communities into places of peace, prosperity, and abundance. 6. Ensure love, not fear, is your default response. Every moment is the moment to think deeper than the fear-based and image-driven narratives of our age, and not react to the collective emotions attached to the wars of the world. It's the time to embrace, to love, to faithfully accept the winds of change that are stirring up humanity. This is a spiritual game, do not mistake it. It's been happening for all eternity. It has its easy paths and its challenging ones, the highs and lows are in the flow, but that's how growth in duality works. That's how the paradigm shifts work. Do not forget there is purpose, meaning, that reflects the energy of who we are, and the energy we designed ourselves within. We're co-creators, we're change agents of collective consciousness that should not be dormant and passive in action. The real power exists in the love that we generate from within, as well as how we express it without. Connect with it to radiate that light everywhere. We must also remember that darkness comes from within, and without, too. Once again, that's duality. The more that we lighten our personal darkness, the more we can alchemize the impersonal shadows. This occurs primarily through the repair and reconstruction of the ego, which as a concept, shouldn't be condemned at all. The ego simply means at its core the self, the I, which needs to be emancipated from its conditioning and created in an image of all the truths that exist within both the material and spiritual structures. Now of course I'm not talking about the superficial definition of ego, such as excessive pride or a lack of selflessness. Those aspects of the ego certainly need to be transcended. I'm referring to the fact that everyone, both past and present, lives with their ego intact because we need it to function as a human snapshot of consciousness. So it's not going anywhere, at least for the time being. That's why our goal should be to reset it and then redesign it, instead of rejecting it. Otherwise, it's just adding more self-harm to the suffering of the world. 7. Explore altered states of consciousness. Ever since we were kids where we spun around in circles to make ourselves dizzy, we have explored altered mind states. Dreaming is another natural way too, as is meditation. Alcohol is the most common way people do it in modern society, although it is the most destructive. Alternatively, some people choose to partake in psychedelic adventures, many of which lead to a spiritual affinity with reality and the subsequent embracing of meditation as a lifestyle. No matter which way we personally choose to alter our conditioned mind state, and regardless if it's primarily for fun, healing, development, or shamanistic purposes, the benefits of deprogramming and reprogramming the mind and heart beat loud and clear. Simply, this is done most effectively and efficiently through altered states of consciousness. The truth remains that, as we venture through these experiences, we have the potential to become more conscious of both the immaterial and material matrix and, therefore, learn to design ourselves in ways that naturally contribute to our personal and collective unveiling. 8. Expose and disconnect from the dysfunctions of the systems. Obviously we all can't just quit our job, pack up house and move off-grid, but we can identify the harmful aspects to the systems and personally decide not to participate the best we can, according to our particular context. It's not like it's all bad, anyway. There's some great results that humanity's series of systems have cultivated over the last several millennia, such as culture, knowledge, music, philosophy, certain industry, many technologies, some modern and ancient medicines, an increase in innovation, the potential to collectively thrive, and the uniting of the global culture, to name but a few absolute gems. Some examples of the dysfunctions that we need to be aware of include recognizing that the banking industry is a scam perpetrated by the cabal, one in which much of the wealth and resources of the planet is consolidated into the hands of a few, instead of being distributed fairly throughout our local communities. Knowing that the mainstream media is controlled deception and propaganda, so we won't find holistic truths there. Acknowledging that mechanistic medicine has been hijacked by unethical profit-based monopolies. Accepting that scientific endeavor has been dogmatized by philosophical materialism, and therefore much of the emerging scientific evidence is misinterpreted through the prison of the materialist faith. Understanding that our air and water is being bombarded with toxic and harmful chemicals, let alone most of our foods and immunization procedures. reflecting that the political environment has been infiltrated by the shadow power structures, and that democracy has basically died in the modern era. Registering that our natural systems are being damaged, such as deforestation, ocean acidification, desertification, decreased biodiversity, and an alarming and unnatural rate of extinction in the animal and plant kingdoms. All of this insanity is a product of the powerful organizations that have commandeered the various systems. However, they only have so much power because it's sanctioned by the people. One day we will stop condoning all this carnage by collectively speaking out loud about it and demand that it all change. Therefore, the more we practically engage with these layers of truth, the sooner we will heal and transcend them. 9. Bypass the lower vibratory intelligence and engage directly with the source. At the core of our reality is the one thing, and each subsequent creation within our existence is intimately interconnected with it. There are many names for it, however the most progressive term is simply consciousness. Each intelligent manifestation of this universal awareness is a fractal of consciousness which dualistically harbors both positive and negative spin, or put another way, light and dark. Within the spiritual matrix, there are forces that have both malevolent and benevolent energy, regardless if they're conscious of it or not. Some frequencies within the multidimensional platform that we inhabit are healthy and empowering to play with, however there are always the risks of deception, illness, fear, and energetic waste. This unnecessary noise and turbulence can be bypassed by simply engaging directly with the source. It is the most effective and efficient method to alchemizing our own energy with the energy around us, as it ensures that our psychological and emotional mind layers don't restrict and misdirect the magic that can take place. How far we've become conscious of our own shamanic powers should determine how we consciously choose to play in this theater, yet for a surefire way of maximizing the contribution we make to the energetic and paradigmatic shifts, use the source as the default approach, which naturally gets our human flaws out of the way. 10. Both the inner and outer realms are given equal priority. The ways in which we act is just as important as how we think and feel, particularly in response to the external realm. If we're cold, we rug up. If we're hungry, we eat. If we're in danger, we protect ourselves. If we're being forced into a corrupted and unhealthy system, we speak up and create our own. As Logan said in Wolverine, you can't pretend shit isn't happening when it is, princess. That's why we must provide well-contextualized information about the serious risks that we currently face as a species, such as economic collapse, more false flags and World War III. It is not fear-mongering if the intention is to raise awareness, it is simply necessary to expose all the layers of truth to the world. The fact remains that keeping our heads in the sand is witless, which is why lazily assuming that everything will be okay without taking any action, as many people do in the New Age community, is also highly dangerous. We must work together and pay heed to the lives lost in Mali, Paris, Beirut, Palestine, and all the other war and ideological torn places across the world. We must bind to rebuild the communities whose local economies have disintegrated, and to bring justice to the people whose land and independence have been stolen. We must bring an end to the 20,000 people who die from poverty each day because of a privatized banking system that consolidates the world's power into the hands of a few private families that want to legally institute their hegemony in the form of a one-world government. Who besides us will bring about these changes? Our leading social activists, such as Gandhi and the King, would be mortified if they knew that by choice we were allowing this all to happen. If we don't stand up together and sort the psychopathy of the system out, the military-industrial media politico-banking complex will continue its killing and pillage across our planet until they arrive on all our doorsteps. This is an integral part of our spiritual journey and definitely not something that we should cover our ears about and sing la la la, I can't hear you. Yes, It's important to be the change that you want to see in the world, however it is equally important to actively help the outside world to heal and grow too. The reality is that it's not going to go away, unless we force it. This is part of the responsibility we have when we awaken ourselves to the realities of our majestic, but corrupted world. 11. Be kind, be cool, be compassionate, be truth. The internet has a wealth of knowledge, but it also is a breeding place for hateful and disrespectful commentary. Unfortunately, anonymity and geographical distance really brings out some distasteful traits of humanity. Why do some people feel the need to abusively attack others with differing views? Is it insecurity? What about trauma? Could it simply be a misguided attempt to find some personal authority in a dazed and confused world? Whatever the case, respect doesn't just cost us nothing, it guarantees some peace within ourselves. It can also help others to feel validated in their experience so that they potentially grow in their understanding. We should be focusing on the fact that we're a team, not enemies. We should cooperate, not compete. And that's the type of energy that we need to create both face-to-face and in the virtual world, because it does all of us a plethora of favors and secures the amplification of our unification. In addition, the shift into a more advanced era for humanity will take some time, so patience is virtue. We need to be understanding towards those who are still suffering in their delusions. That doesn't mean that we can't be direct and assertive, but without a foundation of compassion, we simply hurt them and ourselves, too. 12. Allow your views to be challenged and focus on ways to connect with others. We need to challenge our own biases, beliefs, and faiths, even if we believe we're awakened. We need to listen more to the perspectives that challenge our own, regardless if we still don't resonate with them after we've opened ourselves to the alternate view. We should also focus more on the similarities among us, as well as respect and celebrate our philosophical and practical differences. Unfortunately, it's clear that some really great people stifle their self-awareness, intellect, and authenticity because of some self-harming characteristics, such as bigotry, fear, narrow-mindedness, and a subtle addiction to competition. The reassuring part is that we've all had and still have these traits to certain degrees, plus many noxious others, as the entire universe exists within us. Therefore, every single person has the potential to either completely overcome or at least forge a pathway through these barriers so that they begin to truly unearth their inquisitive, trustworthy, and truth-seeking natures. Even more disappointing, however, is that throughout the spiritual and awakening communities, there's a lot of competitive, condemnatory, and close-minded behaviors. Sometimes they're subtle, sometimes they're not. It really shows the limitation in subscribing to one particular ideology or movement, as well as the challenge in processing this sort of information in holistic and healthy ways. It also illustrates how important it is to remain open to evolving our personal views, so that eventually, we can create a fundamental series of agreements on how we should move forward together. It is clear that the progressive mindsets and organizations need to unite, but that's not going to happen if everyone thinks that they've got the answers and nobody else does. We all have an essential piece to the puzzle. It's beautiful that we all can contribute something to the shift. If we look for an insight that we can get from other people and their ideas, then not only are we learning, but we're connecting with them on some level too. We really do have so much power as a collective. For example, imagine if all the charities of the world decided to raise awareness of the systemic theft that occurs through the corrupt and unethical banking institutions that we've adopted on a worldwide scale. There would be a revolution in no time, because once people truly understand how that system works, they reject it wholeheartedly, especially because they understand that it's cutting the head off the snake. Final thoughts? Everywhere we look in alternative media these days, there's information that encourages us to question the validity of the matrix power structures, such as the spiritual, financial, corporate, and political dimensions. It's a hard pill to swallow, but the whole current consensus is an absolute farce. It can be a little overwhelming to open our minds to the varying layers of truth in the world, especially when we're at times hard-pressed to keep our own heads above water, yet it is integral to make this aspect of life a focal priority, because as a collective, we can so easily change it for the betterment of all of mankind. We are the leaders in the next evolutionary stage of our collective consciousness. At least for the time being, we can't fully unplug from the matrix as this is the context that we find ourselves in, so we need to work with it to the best of our ability. As described above though, we can unplug from its deceptions by illuminating them, embracing them, manipulating them, and even loving them. Ultimately though, our reality is a bold, beautiful swirl of cosmic energy, and it really should be viewed through the lens of reverence. Yes, there's no doubt a whole gamut of processes need to evolve, and the entire matrix structure needs to be brought to the forefront of our collective consciousness, yet life is, at the end of the day, a game of movement, mystery, and magic. Play with it. Laugh with it. Love it. Furthermore, the internet and alternative media has made an explosive contribution to the awakening process being undertaken by humanity, particularly philosophically and systemically. It may be a slow, patient process which has been building for generations, yet 2017 is within a critical moment which has the potential to positively define our future for generations to come. We all play a small part in this transformation too, so don't think for a moment that how you personally think, feel, and act doesn't have a strong rippling impact in this exciting and important time on our planet. Own that power.